name's Chris Russell. Just kidding. Some of you are like, I haven't seen you for a little while. So if you are new with us today, we are so glad that you are here with us. Today is certainly going to be a little different than our typical Sunday morning service, but I think as we share about what we're excited about today, you are certainly going to get a glimpse into a lot of what we are passionate about and what we spend a lot of time and energy and focus on here at Community Church of Waterford. Now, how many of you are familiar with Destiny Rescue? If you've been around here for a while, we have been partnering with them for almost 3 years. They rescue children out of the sex trafficking trade around the world, mostly in Asia, but recently they started up their work in the Dominican Republic as well. I had the privilege Friday of being in Fort Wayne and speaking at their Taste for Freedom. That's their giant fundraiser in Fort Wayne. It was packed out at 400 people, and at the end of the night, we had raised $113,000 to go towards rescuing more children. What's that? Oh, did I say 113? Oh, well, at least I went low. It was $133,000. How about that? Just like that. 20,000, just like that. Ugh. All right. Wow. And the funny part here is she's correcting me on math, which is my thing and not her thing at all. So that was really exciting. So just so grateful for the chance that I had to speak there, but it's because of what this church family is doing. It's because of how you have stepped up and how we've been able to step up as a church family and rescue so many children that we are becoming one of these kind of flagship church families for Destiny Rescue all around the world. And what a privilege to be a part of that. So this past week, I finished up my prep month. And for those who may not have been around a few months ago when we talked about this, I stepped away from the day-to-day activities and responsibilities of my position here. And I was really able to focus in on some planning for 2018. I also took some extra intentional time to meet and dream with our local and our international ministry partners about what our partnerships can look like moving forward so that they get bigger and stronger. And in the midst of that, I was able to enjoy some vacation time with my wife and 3 girls, as well as visit my parents in North Carolina and visit my son Caleb in his first year of college over in Ohio. So I'd like to thank my amazing staff for how they continue to make things happen around here, and how because of their dedication and passion for what they do, I'm able to do this step away time, knowing full well that everything is going to be taken care of with excellence. And I also appreciate so much how a number of you reached out to me to let me know that you were praying for me during this reflection and preparation time. When I was trying to figure out what was next for me in church ministry leadership 8 years ago, when we were living in Anderson still, I so desperately wanted to find a place that wanted to be authentic in how they did life together, and I wanted to find a place that really had a heart for reaching people that were far from God. And when Rachel and I came to visit and we started to talk with the leadership team about whether or not we were all a good fit for each other, I was blown away to discover just how similar our desires were to one another. And if you were here in August during our 25th anniversary celebration, you heard stories from Reed about how the whole reason CCW started was because of the desire that God had put in the heart of a handful of people to do something different in the Goshen area, to do something that got away from the traditional approach of church and really spoke to people in practical ways and reached those who did not have a relationship with God. And those people were obedient to that nudging from God, and they stepped out in faith, and they started a new church family. And eventually they purchased the land that we currently own, and they built on this site the wonderful facility that we still get to enjoy today. And this facility has served us well for these past 12 plus years. And the leadership team at that time, they knew that what was being built was not going to be able to provide everything that we would need for our ministries for the long haul. They made plans for expansions in the future, and they made some preliminary plans for that expansion so that as God continued to bless our church family and more people joined our family and more opportunities came up for getting together, for growing together, for playing together, and for worshiping together, there would be a need for more space to accommodate everything. But we need to be reminded that ministry is ultimately about people and the value of people. We believe that people matter to God, and so because of that, they need to matter to you and I as well. So when we talk about our facility, we are really talking about a tool that helps us do it in the best possible way. It's a tool that allows us to carry out the vision and the programs that God puts on our hearts to offer our church family and offer to our community around us. And somewhere around 2 years ago, a number of conversations started that looked at how well this tool was allowing us to do everything God had called us to do. What was God calling us to do? Who was God calling us to reach? What did we need from a facility standpoint to help us follow this calling? And we wanted to be intentional about getting on the same page as a leadership team as to what God was up to in the midst of our church family and see where he was leading us for the foreseeable future. So today what we want to do is we want to update all of you on this journey that we've been on these past couple of years. Nothing is being decided or finalized today. We simply want to share with you the excitement that we have for what God is doing in our church family and share with you what we believe he is calling us to do from a facility standpoint that will give us the future tool that we need to carry out these exciting plans and allow us to dig deeper together and reach further into the community and the world around us. And then afterwards, we're going to have a meal together. And then we're going to take about 30 minutes to get into groups to hear some feedback from you on what your initial impressions are about what you heard today. This is something we want to step forward in together, so we want to make sure that we're all in conversation about this because it's a significant decision for our church family, and all voices are valued and appreciated in this process. So I want to go ahead and invite those who are participating in our presentation. Why don't you all come on up here? Now, this is kind of an interesting thing when you get into these kinds of presentations, is that for some of us, we've been thinking and marinating and questioning this topic for a couple of years now. So obviously, we're a little further down the road as far as having digested a lot of this stuff. Some of you, this may be the very first time you're hearing about this. We've had it in the program for quite a while, asking people to pray for that team that's been looking at our facility needs for these last few months. It's been in the program. But some of you, especially if you're new here today, this is brand new information to you, and that's okay. That just means we need you to be that much more open and just ask God to open up your heart to what you're going to hear and what you're going to see today and help him to validate it for you as a church family if this is the direction that we're supposed to go. So can we do that today all together? We're all in different places. That's okay. Today we've been excited about getting up here. We've been chomping at the bit. We've been talking about this for so long. We're like, okay, let's get there. Let's start sharing it with the family and let's see what happens. So we're excited about that. For those of you who may not be familiar with how we're set up leadership-wise, we have our staff. If staff members, go ahead and stand up, you two. And then any staff out here, where's the rest of our staff? They're probably getting ready for the meal. Sheena's over here, our youth director. Luke, associate pastor. Linda does care ministries and women's ministries. Tracy keeps us all in line in the office. She really is the one that runs that boat. No, Ashley is our children's director, and I don't think she's able to be with us today. And Dan, where's Dan at? Did Dan stand up? Oh, he's out there. Okay. Well, you saw Dan. He was singing just a little bit ago, so you know who Dan is. But that's our staff, and we're really excited about that. So we have the staff component, and then we have what we call the leadership team. And the leadership team is the combination of our board and our elders. Board oversee everything with facility. They oversee everything with our budget, anything with our property. They oversee all of that stuff. They are our number gurus. So if you're a board member, would you go ahead and stand up? I know we've got Jim is our chair for the board, and we've got, Greg and Steve and Donna. I don't know if we have any other board members here today, but those are some of our board members. And then our elders are those who take care of overseeing the ministry side of things. They're the ones that when there's something going on as far as the kind of the spiritual oversight of the church family, programming, all of that kind of stuff, that is what they work with in particular. So would our elders go ahead and stand up wherever you're at, whichever elders we have here today. So Galen is our chair for our elders. Vanessa and Doyle and Nate are all here today. Kathy's over there. Sorry, Nate was kind of like screening you a little bit there from my perspective here. So stand up, Kathy. Oh, you are. Okay. All right. So that is some of our leadership team. So just kind of want to make you aware of some of the faces and how we're structured so you understand that. So these are all the groups that have been working together in this process. And then because we knew that we wanted even more wisdom in our group, we brought in Enos. Can you raise your hand, Enos? Enos is our representative from DJ Construction here in town. And then Bill Walter on the end is from Church Growth Services, and he's the financial guru. So these guys have done this a lot of times, and we definitely wanted their wisdom and their expertise involved in this process here. So we're just going to take some time to kind of share with you what we've been doing the last couple of years, and you're going to hear from a number of different people about what they're excited about and what the possibilities are. And I just ask you, just take it in, listen to it, see what the possibilities are, hear the excitement, think about and dream about what the future of our church family can be and who we can become as we go through this. So, Jim, I'm going to have you go ahead and share first a little bit about, I guess it makes sense to kind of start with the whole thing about the process of where we've been. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit of that with us.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, we thought you ought to know what the leadership team has been up to the last couple of years and how we got to this point. So around 2 years ago, we realized that we had a good problem to deal with. Space for our programming was tight, and our attendance had been increasing. And up above, you can see a crowded youth room on a recent Wednesday night. And then below that is a busy gathering area for a wow meal. So then in 2016, we met with Bill and Enos to help us think about a building project. And part of the wisdom that they imparted on us was that we really need to balance three things: our ministry goals, our facility capabilities, and our financial reality. It's sort of like the three legs of the tripod back there. They all have to be in balance with each other. So we processed the input and explored the next steps, and we realized we really needed to better define our ministry goals. We weren't totally clear and all on the same page at that point. So in March of this year, 2017, the leadership team had a retreat, and we tried to develop a longer-term vision for CCW, and we came up with three areas we wanted to focus on, first of which is care ministry. We wanted to take better care of our CCW family and then also extend that to the community. We wanted to look at facility needs to serve our kids, to provide some adult classroom space and meeting areas, and then look at a multi-purpose room as well. And then finally, reach. We want to engage outside of our walls and by special event programming, such as the Mitch McVicker event coming up, and sort of having more of a marketing focus. Get the word out in our community about CCW and who we are and what we do. A highlight this year, we received a $15,000 grant that was awarded to us from the Center for Congregations, and that helps us pay for some of these plans and visions we're looking at. So that brings us to today, and we'll ask Enos and Galen to share some of those plans with you.
These are exciting times for the Community Church of Waterford. Our family is growing, and it's really, really neat to be a part of that. That growth is evident in a crowded Treasureland room. That growth is evident in our junior, senior high rooms down there. Also on Wednesday evening when we gather and trying to find spaces for our small groups to meet around and be out of each other's way. You can see the evidence of that growth. As Chris spoke earlier, this building proposal that we have today is just a tool. It's a tool for us to be able to do ministry better. As Jim spoke, we had an all-day retreat back in March with the leadership team, and out of that came 4 ministry goals that have guided the building team these last 6 months. Those ministry goals are: we need more space for Treasureland and for our junior senior highs. And that space for our junior senior highs is in 2 components. One is classroom space, but one is a play area, a large area to be able to have some games and to burn off some steam. The second ministry goal we had for this building proposal is we needed space for our small groups somewhere in the process of this. And our third area was that we'd like to move forward with a sports ministry, and so we needed a space for a sports ministry, an opportunity to reach out into our community. And the last goal was the possibility of a kitchen. So with these 4 goals in mind, why the building team moved ahead, and the first thing we tried to ascertain or look at was the location for this new building. What would be the possibilities? And when you look around the edges of our existing building, it becomes pretty logical, pretty quick, that we need to go out to the north. And so we wound up with a 2-story structure that attaches on to the north end, which is the existing treasure land and area, and the offices above that. This is going to be a 72 by 80 foot building at this point, and we think we can solve some problems with that. The key elements of this building are we have a senior high, junior high classroom. And so with this classroom, this frees up 2 classrooms for treasure land. We wind up having 5 classrooms now instead of 3. There are 2 new small group meeting rooms, classrooms, adult classrooms in this proposed building. And then there's also going to be a conference room out here where the nursery is. And that conference room could also be used as a small group meeting area. There's also going to be a multi-purpose room off to the north end, a 48 by 78 room, and this room will accomplish the junior senior highs area to get out and have some space to run. It's going to accomplish the sports ministry, and it's also going to help us, the church family, that we can have our large group events down there instead of having to tear this room down, put tables out, and then tear it down again to get our chairs back. We'll have this large meeting space down there. And then we also create a new nursery in the process of this. Let's walk through the building plans, and Enos can point us out. We're up here in the worship area, and if you were to walk back through the lobby, you'll see what was the existing nursery area. Half of that's going to be used for a walkway, and the other half will be a conference room or a small group meeting area. If we walk through the doors, off to our right is the nursery area. There'll be a nursery and a toddler's area, and they'll be separated by a low wall so that supervision teachers can see both ways. When you come out of the nursery, you'll see the stairway leading down, and then you'll see the 2 small group adult classrooms there that we can use. Let's now go downstairs. We'll go down the existing steps. We'll walk through treasure land, and we're getting ready to go inside the new building. When you do that, off to your left is going to be the new junior senior high room there with access back to the old youth room and then access to the new multipurpose room. If we go into the new multipurpose room, it's big. And it looks like a gymnasium, but it's not. We visited the McCoy Baptist Church, and it's a wonderful room. You have the opportunity to do all kinds of things in here. Yes, there's basketball goals. There are volleyball things. You can have all kinds of game. But at the same time, you can have tables set up in it. You can have chairs set up in it. You'll just be able to do a wide variety of things. The flooring is such that you can play basketball on it, and you can also put chairs and tables and kids running across it. It's going to be a wonderful large area for us. When you come out of the multipurpose room back toward Treasureland, you're going to see off to the left a room, and we're not quite sure yet. It has the opportunity to be a storage room. It has the opportunity to be a restroom. One of the considerations we have, if you have a group using the multipurpose room, and they don't particularly need access to the rest of the church, do we secure those doors? And if we do, then they probably need a restroom on that side. Or do we leave the doors open and let them use the restroom that exists down there? And that'll be one of those things you can talk about in your groups today as we work our way through this. At this time, Enos is going to take us through it. He has a real cool computer program, and he's going to give us kind of a flyover of what this looks like.
Thanks, Galen. I want to point out, just before I get started, that, for my line of work, I consult with churches, and I've had probably more than 50 churches over the last 5 years I had a chance to consult with. I want to hope you understand something, that when we talked about the importance of starting with ministry goals first, your leadership team got that. And as Chris had said early on, and as Jim kind of outlined the steps, these folks really went back to basics and really dug in deep. And when you have those ministry goals well defined, it's much easier to put the building goals in place. So Gail and I are here talking about the building, but I hope you understand it's not about the building. It's about what you do in this tool, and Chris identified that early on. So I'm going to show you some possibilities. I got a couple of disclaimers. At home, I'm not allowed to pick colors and furniture. A few of you understand what I'm talking about there. But here we did, just to try to help you for some reference perspective. So bear with me if it's not exactly the color we're looking for. But here we took a picture. We put a photographer out in your parking lot, took a picture of your building, and what we envisioned would look something like this. It'll take a little longer to build it than I just did. But that's kind of the thought here. And so what we're going to do, as Galen pointed out, do a little fly-through. And what I do on these is I take the roof off of them so you can kind of peek in like a bird's eye view. And so when we're ready, let's go ahead and run the video. I'll try to narrate where we're going here. So now we're peeking in over that multi-purpose area that Galen talked about. Kind of span around it on it. You see 2 stories to the back there. And the top floor is what we're showing exposed at this point in time. This is that new nursery area that we envisioned. Hope I'm not making anybody sick with this movement. But you see the stair there, and now we're starting to see some of the adult classrooms come into play, into focus. And we're going to back up and see how we get to that room by reworking the nursery area and having that conference room there. So that's pretty much a good view of the upper level. We're going to do one more spin around, and we're going to jump. So get your seatbelts on. We're going to jump over to the lower level. So this is the lower level. We took the top floor off. You can see that the gym area looks the same. The multipurpose area is the same. This is that entry level we were talking about, and the new youth center that we envision. You see how it connects over to the current youth center and has the ability really to give a lot more flexibility in the programming. You see how you can connect to it from the lower level. There's another perspective of the same space. We're going to jump back to the upper level where we started and try to end up pretty much where we started back in the parking lot. That's a quick tour of what your building might look like, trying to give you a little perspective from the planning side of it. And I'm going to turn it over to Linda.
Thank you. I tried to hold Jim's hand during the prayer, and it was so sweaty and clammy, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. His. Because I think we've been a part of this process, and so we're already excited. If you know me, you know I'm a storyteller, so I have a quick story to share. There's an opportunity coming up this spring, a service opportunity, and boy, I really wanted to be a part of that. It's a women's ministry outreach kind of a thing, and I just prayed about it, and I thought, God, I'd love for you to use me in this way. I'm in. I'm all in. Pick me. And if that's where you want me to be, then put my name on somebody's heart, and they'll call me, and I will be obedient, and I will go. And I got the call, and I was so excited. And when they called, the gal explained there are 5 organizational meetings that we expect you to attend. If you have to miss one, We'll excuse one, but we'd really like you to be at all 5. And I said, oh, I'm in, I'm there. And a couple days later, some friends contacted us and said, we are headed to the beach in the dead of winter. We would love it if you would join us. And I said, I'm in. I'm in. And I looked at the dates, and sure enough, there was a conflict. But then I remembered, I can miss one organizational meeting and still be okay. And so we looked up the hotel, and we looked up airfare, and I was excited. A week on the beach in the middle of winter. I'm in. I don't like winter. And right before we were ready to say, okay, we'll go, I started to have sort of a funny feeling in my chest. And I thought, I could serve and go to 4 out of the 5 meetings, and I could go on vacation. But I'm not sure that when I meet God someday and I look him in the eye, I'm not sure I can say I served well. I can say I served, but I don't think I can say I served well. And I really wrestled with that because I really wanted to go to the beach. But more than that, I want to serve well. And so we called our friends and said, thanks so much. I hope we can go next time. I want to serve well. And I feel great about that decision. It was the right decision to make for me. When I think about what we've done since I joined the staff in January, it's exciting. I love my job. I love this congregation. I love you. I love serving God in this way. It's amazing. I get paid to do this stuff. That is so cool. Because it's just incredible to be a part of this. We've had Bible studies, we've had book studies, we had a marriage enrichment study. Many of you have come to my house for dinner for 8, and if you haven't been yet, I'm sure you will be. We have offered craft nights, service nights, meet the author nights. We have had the big Illuminate event that last spring that almost 200 women attended. That was awesome. We started the food ministry, which takes care of the entire church family, and the life care ministry. That's a lot. That's a lot. I think that the new building project is so exciting to me because I see what else we can be doing. We can serve where we are here. We can serve. We can absolutely serve. We have been, and we can continue to do that. But I think if we want to serve well, then these next steps are going to allow us to do that. And that's what is so exciting to me, is the opportunity to serve well. And one of the things that I've learned through spending time with so many gals here at church, whether it's at a meeting or one-on-one, is that there are a lot of people right here in our own church family who have struggles, who are really dealing with some big things. Maybe it's some discord in a marriage. Maybe it's finances. Maybe you've got a loved one in rehab or in prison. Maybe you're just struggling to feel good about yourself and your own self-worth, relationships with your kids, whatever it is. There are so many more people outside of our walls who need to hear the voice and feel the arms of Jesus, and we have that opportunity at CCW to do that. We have that opportunity to do that every day, but we have the opportunity to do it even better with the new facility. So I'm in. I'm excited. I don't know if it'll look like this, like what we saw when we're done, but I'm excited. I'm excited to serve well. I'm excited to serve you, but mostly I'm excited to serve my God. Thanks for letting me share that.
Those of you who know me and have taken the opportunity and we've gotten to know each other better, you know that probably the deepest passion of my heart is people and relationships. We've had people come in and ask me in the presence of other people, so, what do you do here? What's the thing that you love the most? And I remember multiple conversations that I've had with people who've come in on that, and they've said that, and there have been people around me, and before I can answer, they answer for me. And it's kind of cool to know that there's a connection made in that way with the people here. That you guys know me well enough that at times when others come in and they ask me about my heart for ministry in this place and what I do within the family of CCW, you guys can answer for me. I think that's cool. I like that and the deepening of those relationships. You know, Paul says many times in Scripture, it does not pain me to tell you this again. He likes to reiterate things over and over again, the things that are the most important to him when it comes to the ideas of the purpose of Christ. And so I want to start by reiterating to you guys something that Linda has mentioned, something that Chris started with. We're not building a building. We're building an expansion to our family and relationship center. This is an opportunity for us to continue to build into the hearts and lives of people not only in the church, but outside the church that we can invite in to come and join us and be a part of what we're doing. It's a huge opportunity, too, to allow ourselves to be able to expand upon the events and the things that we're doing. Obviously, for me, that's a big deal because I do a lot of that stuff when it comes to the events and the stuff that we do. And I think a specific example would be the Valentine Banquet. How many of you came to the Valentine Banquet this year? We crammed people into this room around tables for that. Imagine, if you will, for a minute, picture this for me, okay? With that multi-purpose room, we could fit double the amount of people we had in here. We could outsource to the community. You could invite more friends, more people to come and participate and be a part of that. More opportunities to invite people into what we're doing. Double that. Now then, after dinner, you'd have to get up and walk your way back here so that the entertainment could be happening in this room. But that, to me, that's a small sacrifice to make, to come back up here for that. I think one of the biggest things for me when it comes to this is when Abby and I were looking for a place to come and to participate and to join in the family of a ministry with the church. We had interviewed on multiple places. I had put applications out everywhere, but there was something different immediately upon coming to CCW. When we walked into this place, we could feel a radiating love. There wasn't even a need for it to be spoken to us. We could just feel it from the people. And I think that's the thing I love most about the possibility of moving forward with this, is that this place already, through the hearts and the passions of you guys, you radiate the light of Jesus. You already bring that to the forefront when it comes to the ministries that we do. This is why the ministry goals are so important. This is why what we want to do is so important. And Chris tells me, I need a lot of energy out of you this morning. I had my extra cup of coffee. You guys know I'm the energy guy. I'm nuts. I'll dance around and make a fool of myself. I don't care. How many people saw the Thank you, Mark. How many of you saw the video Chris and I made for this morning? Did anybody see that on Facebook? I got accused of doing a rain dance out behind Chris, and that's what caused it. But here's the deal. I'm not afraid to be that guy and to have that energy. But you want to know why I have that energy? It's the people. It's you guys. It's what you do. I am more energized in my job. I am more focused in what I do because I see what you guys bring to the table in this church family, what your hearts do for each other and for the partnerships and the people that we reach outside of these walls. It was unbelievable on Friday night to find out we made $133,000 for Destiny Rescue at that fundraising dinner. But what was so cool was the multiple tables that had family members from this church at it there to support what was going on. And we have multiple avenues where we can do that. And it's an opportunity we have to continue to build into that, to build relationships, and to bring more people into that love and that light of Jesus through what we have visioned for what we can do. And I hope you guys will get excited behind us. I hope that you will capture that vision too. And I hope that when we have an opportunity to hear from you afterwards while we sit with that meal, be honest, be open. That's the other thing I love about this place. I know nobody's going to hide behind anything. Share what you see. because that's only going to make the possibilities bigger and better.
So obviously, two of the people who are very highly affected by this proposal that we are making today are Sheena and Ashley, because they oversee our wonderful youth and children's ministries. They sat down earlier this week to talk a little bit, to share with you a little bit of their hearts and why they're so excited about that. So let's take a look at that video.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'm the Children's Ministry Director.
And I'm Sheena, I'm the Youth Director. And we thought we would just give you a little bit of our thoughts of how the building expansion would benefit our areas. So Ashley, why don't you explain what the typical process is downstairs on a Sunday morning?
So downstairs on a Sunday morning, you bring the kids down and they all go into their individual classrooms. And then after you guys start worship time, we come into the main area downstairs for our worship time. And it's pretty cramped in there. We have quite a few kids.
And then talk about the classrooms, like in the individual classrooms, how are they split up in their age groups?
So the classrooms right now are split up in age groups from kindergarten and under has 2 classes. And there's about probably 12 to 18 kids in each one of those classrooms. And then our older kids are split up. 1st grade and 2nd grade are together, and 3rd grade through 5th grade is together. And it's hard with the 3rd and 5th graders because it's a bigger age difference than what you think that they are. The 3rd graders and 5th graders kind of have a hard time sometimes hanging out because some the 5th graders think that they're awfully young to be in there. So it would be nice if we would have 3 classrooms for them.
So having the classrooms, and then is there any other way that the expansion would benefit your area?
It would be nice on Sunday mornings to have space to go have a large group game time, and if the expansion would go through, we would end up taking over Sheena's youth room, and that would give us more space for our large group time.
And what about upstairs, like with the nursery? How would that benefit or impact you in that way?
The nursery would be split up into 2 sections, and we would be able to bring one of the smaller age groups upstairs. So we would have 2 age groups upstairs, and that would break up the smaller age groups downstairs.
And for the youth, typically on Wednesday evenings is our main youth group time. And we've got anywhere from 30 to 50 teenagers down there. Basically, we have one youth room, and it's just full of couches, and we have all these teenagers that sit on those couches together. So sometimes we have like 6 kids to one couch, which is fine. They're small, and it's kind of fun. The part that it gets crammed is after like the instruction or lesson time, we have small group time. And the small groups are there to build community, for the kids to be able to ask questions, to have some one-on-one time with their leaders, and it's typically between 5 and 8 kids per small group. We don't really have a lot of room to be able to put those small groups. Having a lot of them, sometimes even just 2 in the same room, they compete for each other's attention. Like you could hear what's being said in the other group, and that creates a problem because sometimes what they're talking about is private within their group, so it's not ideal for them to be able to hear the other group, and a lot of times it's just really difficult for them to focus. So we've tried to split them up. We also have like a game room as the other youth room, so we'd send a couple of groups in there. We're able to use one room that's not being used of Ashley's on Wednesday nights that one of the groups go to. We have a group that meets in the stairwell. We actually have a group of girls that meet in the girls' bathroom on Wednesday nights for small groups. So space is really limited. Being able to have more space for the small group time would be really nice to have. I find that time is really important. And then after that, we have a large group game that we like to have. You know, these kids are from 6th grade all the way through high school, and they've sat in school all day long. And then they come and they sit through a long lesson, and then they sit for small group time. So that time at the end is really important to be able to let some of that energy out, to have fun. And honestly, I feel like that's what brings other kids to our church that aren't typically churched. But it gets difficult to have that large group game when we don't have room for it. Having 50 kids in one room where there's already couches, already other things going on, it's almost impossible to play anything else. So when the weather's nice, we can be outside, and that's great. But when it's not, which is the majority of our WOW time, it's really difficult to be able to have that time. So adding on and having a multi-purpose room would be really important, and we'd get a lot of use out of that.
One other thing that we've been doing on Wednesday nights is we've been trying to get the youth kids all together in one big group. We find that that is a good way to help the youth be better mentors for these younger kids, and it's great to have them in their lives. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so we have paired up one of like a teen with one of the Treasureland kids, and then once a month there's a group of teenagers that get together and plan the lesson, and it's typically like a short 3-minute something that they are teaching the kids, and then there's like a craft that goes along with it. So we paired them together, and they get together and teach them that, and be able to pray with them. And we find that it's a way to teach the youth how to be leaders, also give them somebody to be accountable to, and then for the younger kids, they really look forward to it because they think the big kids are really cool, and they look forward to that time together. So having a bigger space to be able to do that would be really great and be able to build those connections.
So Luke was sharing, and again, if you know Luke and been around him for the last couple of years, you know he has a huge heart for our life groups and our people doing life deeper here together. And if you've been around me at all, you know I love to get outside of these walls, and I love to be involved in community outreach. And one of the things that I got to do this past month, as I kind of alluded to earlier, was I got to meet with some of our ministry partners. How many of you are familiar with Ryan's Place? They minister with people who have lost loved ones. And they meet at a church downtown. We have a group that's been going over about once a month for the last year and a half and serving the meal at Ryan's Place and really creating this wonderful relationship with them. And it's developed through a whole bunch of kind of God sequences, we'd call them, to the point that next fall they are moving their entire Monday night program here to Community Church of Waterford. And they minister to anywhere. So we're excited about that. They have anywhere up to like 100 people there on any given Monday. They meet every other Monday during the school year. So this kind of goes back to what Linda was saying earlier, that they came over, they did a walkthrough, and it's one of those things that's like we can serve them with our current facility, but it's going to be snug with what they need, with all the rooms that they need and the space that they're going to need. And when we look at adding on this extra facility space, that allows us to go from serving to serving well, and that's what we want to do. And they are so excited about this process that we are in. They're so excited about going from landlocked downtown to being out here where we have 18 acres and there's a playground and they can have picnics and do different outside activities with their people that they're ministering to. So we're excited about that. How many of you have heard of spa ministries? No, it's not where you go get your nails done and stuff like that. It's spiritual and personal adjustments women's ministry. And a lot of those gals go into that. It's a one-year program. A lot of them are in there. It has a lot to do with people coming in with addictions. A number of the ladies that go through that are coming out of having spent some time in prison. And our life group has spent time within the last year and a half where we just get together and maybe we take them bowling or we have them to our house for a Christmas party. We just were at Mark and Barb's house last weekend. Have a wonderful time with these groups of gals. But because they go through this one-year program, what happens is they graduate at the end of 1 year, and then what? Where's the connections they have? Where's the support system that they have in place? So we are looking to partner with them to create kind of an aftercare program and mentorship program with them. And the idea of that is down the line that we become a church family that these gals who have been through so much brokenness have gone through, and they get out and they're like, oh, we already know like 20 people from Community Church of Waterford. I'm taking my family there. And down the line, we have dozens and dozens of families that came through that ministry that we are able to come alongside and help them continue down their journey of restoration. And again, we want to do that here, but currently all of our classrooms are geared towards children and youth right now. We don't have anything that's kind of a welcoming feel place for adults right now, and that's one of the opportunities that we have with this facility. So just another way that we can reach further out into our community with what we're looking here as we're developing this project. So Enos, go ahead and come back up here, because what I'm so grateful for is Enos has said they would do all of this for $250. And so that, did I, or was that for the model? Was that the model mock-up? Was that, okay. But Enos, obviously, we're so excited about this, but obviously there's a price tag that comes with this, and this has been a big part of our process, is figuring out where do we come down that we are being responsible, and you've helped us kind of work through on narrowing down a range for us. And so if you want to talk to us a little bit about that and share your thoughts.
This is where one pastor said, okay, now the killjoy has to come up here. But construction actually does have some costs, and what we've got here is a range of costs. As we look at the top section, somewhere between $900,000 and $1 million to put the construction pieces together. But you'll have other expenses in addition to it that needs to be factored in as well, between site work, furniture and fixtures, and obviously a church-held contingency. So anyhow, we're looking at a combined total of about $950,000 to a little over 1.1. Why is there a range? Why are we giving you a range at this point? And this is pretty common with the way we work with churches at this stage of the game. We've got computer models and historical database that we use to build this range. We know what other buildings similar have gone in for. We know how to do computer models to say this is what it takes to put up a masonry wall and these kind of things. So we use that range because we still have several moving parts. And a key part of that moving parts is some of the things we're going to hear later, and that's in the next steps. We want to hear from the church family, and we want to shape the building and the project a little more around some of the input and the things that we're looking for. Once we have that input, we'll then align the project to that, and then we go out and we firm bid it, market test it, and come back with a firm, sharp number based on that time period's market. So to go to subcontractors today and say, give me a price for a project that's going to be built in the future, it's hard to get a good number. And so right now, we've got a pretty good confidence level that we've got a range we can drive you between. We're ready to hear for the next steps, and I think that's going to be the key on how we get to this next step in the equation.
Well, I think I might have actually the least favorite slide, and that is, how do we do this? And before I share some thoughts on that, I also want to commend your leadership team for the way they approached this project. Not only did they start with ministry goals, which is key, but they also took financial reality into consideration. You know, I've worked with a lot of churches over the years that create wonderful plans for huge ministry goals, but they aren't financially feasible. And your leadership team took that into account with what I'm going to share with you here in a moment, and that's to their credit. So what they're presenting to you today, I believe, is a very viable proposal that is based in a financial reality that you could seriously consider as a congregation. So how can we do this? What's a potential financial plan? It's pretty simple, really. There's two primary sources of funds for your project. As a church, you currently have approximately $100,000 of cash on hand that could be employed into this project. And that's to the credit of you as a congregation and the management of your leaders to have set those funds aside for a purpose such as this. But the lion's share of the proceeds will come from a capital campaign. And we estimate that a congregation such as yours could have a goal in the range of $750,000 to $1 million, which would be increased giving over a period of 3 years towards a building fund to provide the lion's share of the funds for this project. Now you may say, well, how did you come up with that number, 750 to $1 million? Just pull it out of the air or use a dartboard back in your office? No, not really. Basically, your church provided us with a number of data points. Your income as a church, how many family units are here. We have a little bit of an idea of the community demographic. And so we took all of those factors into consideration, and our 50-plus year history of working with churches and this type of thing, and basically said, you know, we think that a realistic starting point for an estimate for a 3-year capital campaign goal for a church such as yours would be in that $750,000 to $1 million range. Now understand, folks, this is a ballpark estimate. This is an early estimate that is good for planning purposes, but part of the process we're in right now is to better validate that estimate. Actually, once we hear from you throughout this process and feedback that you'll give as a congregation, we'll be able to hone in on that and come down to a specific single number that we believe is the best campaign goal that you could achieve. And so, ballpark estimate to be further refined. Now, when you look at a goal like that, $750,000 to $1 million, I realize that most of us in our daily lives don't ever come anywhere near to dealing in numbers of that magnitude, individually or as households. But the fact of the matter is that we see churches accomplish that type of goal all the time. And here's how it happens. It happens because folks in the church will commit what we call deep and wide. Some families in the church that God has blessed can make very substantial gifts of a magnitude that many of us can't consider, can step up and make those types of deep gifts to the campaign, which are very important. But equally important is wide participation, every family doing what they can, doing what God calls them to do. And by challenging a deep and wide approach, we see those types of goals accomplished routinely. There's going to be further points of validation to this process. We are starting a conversation today with you, the church family, in the after context of the feedback session, but that's going to continue. You're going to have more opportunities to share with us. There will be some interviews of a cross-section of the families in the church. Ultimately, we'd like to survey the entire church family. So we want to just continue a feedback loop that starts today and will be ongoing. And the point is, as that feedback loop progresses, we will be able to further validate and pin down the specific goal that we believe you could achieve. And then, as Enos said, once that goal is further validated through this process and ultimately through the capital campaign itself, then Enos and your building team can size the project to what you, the congregation, say you are willing to commit, and you will have a project that will be well within financial bounds that you know you can confidently proceed with. So, folks, what's the bottom line? How does all of this happen? You actually sang about it earlier in one of your opening songs. Our God is able, isn't he? And that's how it gets done. And we're proceeding on a process of discovery and a process of working with you, the congregation, to ultimately see how our God is able and will come through for you.
So we know we gave you a lot of information today, a lot of things to process, and I certainly hope that you are planning on staying afterwards with us. You guys, any last second thing that you want to share as we've been kind of talking about this and processing it? Anything that you're thinking?
I've recently been hammered with this message series I've been given, Faith in Action. It's been kicking my butt, trust me. And I am convicted heavily over a lot of what we're looking at here. But I love the fact that Bill said it, because I was going to say that too and reiterate, our God is able. He is bigger than we can possibly imagine. And our faith, we may not be able to see what he can do yet, but we can hope for what we know is possible.
Okay.
And I would say how much I enjoyed when Reed stood up here and shared so many wonderful memories of the early times of CCW and all that's happened since day one. And it makes me so excited to think 25 years from now, when someone stands up and shares, what did the second 25 years look like at CCW? And the opportunity we have to have a really awesome story for that person to share. And it's exciting. I'm really excited to be a part of that. I hope you are too.
Yep, good stuff. So we're very excited about that, and we hope that as you're processing this and letting it marinate, that it's going to start creating some buzz and excitement for you as well. But we do want to remember, as we've been talking about all along, this is much bigger than a facility thing. This is about people, and this is about serving and worshiping our God better. So we're going to end, let's go ahead and stand up together. We're going to end worshiping that God that we are trusting on today, and then we'll close in prayer. We sing the words to those songs. This is what we believe. Guys, the reality is there are tens of thousands of people just here in our own county that don't believe that don't know that haven't had somebody come alongside them to introduce them to a God who is crazy in love with them. What we are talking about today is about people, about reaching more people, about serving well, about growing the kingdom, and about having a bigger family that we get to spend eternity with. That's what this is ultimately about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this with prayer, pray for the meal. I hope that you are planning on staying. We'll do the meal, then we'll get together for 30 minutes in groups so we can hear your feedback, get some questions answered, and see what God has in store for us next. Let's pray together. God, I'm so grateful for the morning that you have given us to come together as a church family to talk about things that matter to you. Because as we've said all morning long, this isn't about a building. This is about people. This is about loving people at a deeper level. This is about expanding our reach to the community and world around us. This is about seeing your name lifted up above all names. This is about teaching people the beliefs that we just sang about who you are, what you want to do, how you want to work in us, and how you want to work through us. So, Lord, we are grateful for everybody who has been a part of this process to get us to this point. And we are trusting that even now you are working in the hearts and the minds of our church family here. And you are going to meet us as we gather together shortly. And you are going to speak through us, and you are going to get us on the same page. And you are going to have us in one accord, of one mind and one heart, of what you want to do through the Community Church of Waterford. God, we want to serve you, and we want to serve you very, very well. So be with us as we enjoy this meal together. Thank you for everybody who provided for it. We pray that you would be lifted up in the conversation, and we pray that you would go before us into the conversation that we're going to have afterwards. And that as we gather that information together, as we work with Bill and Enos, that you will make it very clear the plan that you have for the Community Church of Waterford. Because we are excited about these next 25 years, and we want to get off to a fantastic start in reaching the goals that you have placed on our hearts and our minds to achieve, because we know you are a big, big God, and through you and in you, we can do amazing things in your name. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being here. I hope you're planning on staying. I think if you head out to the lobby area, I'm assuming somebody out there is going to have some directions for you, because I just show up to eat. So.